Hi there, my name's Tara, and I've got MS, relapsing remitting. Mhm. And I thought I would just kind of quickly, or as quickly as I can, tell my story about how it happened to me and how I found out about it. Um, so I guess it would start, I don't know, a while ago, years ago. I've been off work now for maybe 4 or 5 years. I was working as an education assistant during the day. That's working with kids that have special needs, learning difficulties, disabilities. I was doing that in the daytime. And in the evenings, I was teaching dance, tap, jazz, hip hop. And I was doing that for about 8 years. But the last few years, um, not the last 8 years, anyways, I was doing that for 8 years. But the last few years of that became really difficult. I was exhausted all the time. I also have, sorry, that's my schnauzer's tail right there. I also have severe food allergies, so I couldn't eat anything. I had really bad digestive problems. I was just a mess. Eventually, they diagnosed me with Crohn's, and I was able to take some time off of work. Um, but once I was off work, I pretty much just felt like I was just sitting there dying. There was no help for Crohn's. They don't know anything about it. Um, and also, since I was working as a substitute, I didn't have like a really good crew of employees that I was working with daily. So when I dropped off the face of the earth, not a lot of people noticed, unfortunately. Um, yeah, so I didn't have a ton of support. I didn't have family on this side of the country. Luckily, I had my boyfriend and my wonderful dogs. There's Jackson right there, and Moon is down here. Um, but anyways, I was laying there feeling like I was dying. Nothing was happening with my life, and my boyfriend was working his butt off. So I figured maybe I could try to go to school and learn something else to do with my life. Something that I could earn a bit of money. And if I was just going to sit around all day in bed, maybe I could work on the computer. And I was artistic, so I decided to get into graphic design. And it was really hard for me to find a school that would take me on as a student with a disability so that I could take a lighter load. And it would also work with student aid and allow me to get a loan. So we found one out in Vancouver that would do that for me. So we came out here, and I started taking the program, and it was going to be over 2 years stretched out for me. I was taking it; it was awesome, loving it, doing really well. It was really difficult though. Getting up for class, I could only do afternoon classes. Getting to class, I was pretty much done, and then I'd have to, sit through the 4 hours, not really being able to like eat any nourishment or anything to keep me going, and then just barely just make it home to crash right after. Anyways, I was still making it through, and just over a year through that, there was a class I was taking. It was web design, and I was a few classes into that course. And I came in one morning and class started, and everyone started typing on the computer like they knew what they were doing. And I was like, what? I was just out of it. I was looking around. I couldn't quite put together anything that I was like seeing. I said to my friend next to me, like, oh my God, how do you know what you're doing? Like, how do you even know what you're typing right now? Like, these were weird questions, even like for me to ask her. But she's like, it's okay. Don't worry. I'll help you in a second. And I was like, no, like, and I said jokingly, I feel like I've had a stroke. And which I've never said before, but I couldn't even explain it. I was just out of it. And the very next day, I woke up with my left hand completely asleep, and it wouldn't shake out like it normally would. Um, so I went to my chiropractor who thought it was a pinched nerve. So he worked on it for a couple weeks before he decided, I don't think it's a pinched nerve, and I think maybe you should go to the hospital, um, which was kind of scary. Um, and at that point, it had gone up my arm and it had gone into my torso. It never went above my neckline, like my collarbone, and it never crossed like over. It was just numb right to the center line all the way down my body. And then it crept in through my left foot and started coming up my leg that way. And then eventually my entire left side was completely numb. My left arm, I had lost proprioception, meaning that my brain didn't know where it was in space. Um, you can do a little test for yourself. You put your thumb out of your wonky hand or a normal hand and close your eyes. So your brain knows where that thumb is in space. So now using your other hand, grab that thumb. Boom. Right? I'm all right now. Well, what happened then was this would move on its own. I would go to grab it because it used to be here, open my eyes and be like, what the crap just happened? So that was proprioception. That was gone. And then, right, so I went to emergency. They thought it was probably like a migraine thing. So I went to my doctor, that doctor. She thought it was a migraine. So I went to the emergency. They treated me for migraine. It didn't go away. They did x-rays to check for tumors. There was no tumors. And they did a CAT scan, I believe, and then set me up to get an MRI. So then I had to go to get an MRI and go see this neurologist. She was lovely. When I went in to see her, she told me that she thought it was MS. She couldn't diagnose me just yet because in Canada they need like a time period. They need 3 months where like two MRIs are showing something that you've got the same lesions or some more lesions or something. I don't know. Anyways, they couldn't treat me immediately. However, she kind of made some phone calls and got me in to see this other neurologist who works out of the University of British Columbia's MS clinic. So I was going to be going to see her. When a couple days later, the numbness jumped over my torso and started coming through my right hand as well and my right foot. So just before I went to school one day, I called the neurologist and she called me back and said, I want you to go to emergency right away and we're going to get you on a steroid treatment. So I went into emergency that day. They kept me for 3 nights and did like a 3-day steroid thing. And it went away, meaning like the numbness went away, my feeling came back. The only thing was my left hand was doing this like really hard claw thing where it wasn't so much pain. Like it was like tightening like between all of my knuckles. It felt like there was like this tightening and clamping, almost vicing together. And they had no explanation for that. So, and I still have issues with, especially my left hand, but both my hands with a lot of pain that they can't explain. My nerve pain medication doesn't get rid of it. It kind of acts like arthritis. It aches. But I've been tested for arthritis and it says no. So, yeah. Anyways, my neurologist came and visited me at the hospital and was pretty much like, yeah, we're pretty sure it's MS. And yeah, so we did the whole thing. We waited 3 months, had an MRI, and it was, yep, all good to go. So I went back to the MS clinic where, they have a nice team of doctors there for me. Unfortunately, it takes like a year to get in to see some of them, which is kind of beside, it doesn't really help. But my neurologist and the nurses and stuff are awesome. And my therapist, like my occupational physical therapist, they're really good there. So what's happened since is I'm on a crap load of drugs. Um, this first year, like people kind of hear like, "Oh, you've been diagnosed with MS. Oh, okay, so you're okay now because they gave you drugs." And it's like, no, that's not how MS works. So I'm still. Doctor said it could take up to 2 years to recover from this, and it has been. It's been more than just physical for me. It's been a lot of mental stuff. I've been having a lot of mental fog. What do they call it? Cognitive fog or cog fog? Some girl in the that I met in the waiting room told me the other day. And I was like, that's what it is. You can't explain it. You just can't. Some days I just sit here. I can't figure out what the crap I'm supposed to be doing, or even I'm just like overwhelmed. Oh, that's Moon right there. I don't know if it's the depression that's just fueling it, but it's just not being able to figure out what the crap to do. So this whole first year, it's been a year now, um, that I've been diagnosed. It's just about finding drugs to help the symptoms. So we haven't even touched my MS yet. And by the way, there is no cure for MS. So even when I did start my MS drug, people think, oh, you're on it now. Okay, so you're good now. No, that's still not what happens. But, anyways, I was put on a ton of nerve pain medication because I was always getting this really bad tingling, like buzzing throughout my body, especially when I walked. So I was put on Lyrica, the max dose eventually. Also Cymbalta to help with the pain. I was already on my Wellbutrin, which is good stuff. Um, they then suggested I try Vyvanse. It's usually used for kids with ADHD, but they used it to try to, get rid of my cog fog. So the first time I tried it, actually worked pretty good. It was a bit like jittery, a bit like speed at first, so I kind of had to come down to another dose till my body got used to it. But I got up for the first time in months and organized like a pile of papers. It was like not much, but I'd been looking at it for like months, going like, I wish I could get up and organize that, but I don't even know. Like I couldn't even open my Facebook. Like I couldn't even open, and it's not that I couldn't, but I just was like I would look at my computer and just didn't like it. It just was too much effort, brain work for me to get on Facebook and start reading through stuff. Like even reading, the letters were messed up, or as before I could speed read like crazy. Now I speed read and I'm like, okay, well, I don't understand anything I read, so I actually have to read it word for word. Even reading it word for word, I would still have to go back and look at words and go, is that the word I think it is? Because it just wouldn't look right anymore. So that was fun. So that's been something I've had to struggle with. People are like, oh, you feeling better? You going to go back to school? It's like, no, I've got a different brain right now, and I don't know if I'm going to get my old brain back. I hope so. But right now, it takes a lot of effort for me to like maintain focus, any sort of focus. Um, it's ridiculous. Like I lose train. Like pretty stoked that I'm actually speaking throughout this whole thing. It's a lot of the time I just completely lose my train of thought. If anything distracts me off what I'm saying, I'm like, what were we talking about? I have no clue what we were talking about. I am doing a line of doggy jackets, made out of. You can't really see. There we go. Doggy jackets made out of jean jackets, little kids' jean jackets, and I cut them up. And, anyways, I made this little thing so keep me busy, and I've done a market or two, and I've even got some customers. I could be making some money, but then all of a sudden my brain crashed again, and I've been sitting here for weeks and just looking at them, and the same thing, feeling like it's happening again, like does my brain just need a break or something? Like, I don't know. I'm just looking at it, figuring, like, what the is going on? So, anyways, they've put me on another new drug for that. What is this called now? For aminopyridine, something like that. Anyway, so this is another one they put on to try to help with my cognitive stuff. But every day is a huge struggle. So, yeah, I just started my MS drug, Copaxone. I decided to go with an injectable, so I'm giving myself a shot every day. Again, when people say, "Oh, you started your MS drug," that's fantastic. You're going to be feeling better. No, that's also not what happens with MS drugs. You don't feel better, and they make sure that you understand that this drug is not to make you feel better. What it's for is to hopefully reduce my risk of having another relapse or prolong my remission until I have another relapse. And when I do, when and if I do have another relapse, meaning another lesion in my brain, that it's not as severe. So we won't know that this drug is working really until I have another attack or don't have another attack. So that's what the MS drugs do. And in the meantime, I'm just on a slew of drugs to try to keep me working. And by working, I mean getting up daily, being able to shower, walk my dogs, maybe one other thing, and that's it. My tank of gas is done, empty by the end of the day. The fatigue is still my biggest problem, even with all the drugs to try to help me up. A lot of the other drugs make me sleepy, so that's fine. So I guess that's my story. If you have any questions, let me know. And yeah, if you want to talk, reach out. Okay? Bye.